The number one criticism I have with the One Piece live action that I hope they fix in season 2 is the cinematography. It's the cinematography. I think the cinematography is the worst part about the show. I think the DP is doing their job. You know, they're doing it. I mean, it still looks fine. It's not like the show looks abysmal. But man, some of the choices are nauseating. Having the camera be pressed up against people's faces so regularly is a terrible decision in a world like One Piece. I get it, right? You want to save on budget. You don't show as much of the scene. You don't want to have like these crazy detailed backgrounds. You have to save on budget with these close-up face shots. You have the background out of focus and blurred. You can save on budget that way. I get it, but this show is not low budget. There are shows with smaller budgets that don't do that. So to me, it's weird that there's a majority of the shots when characters are having dialogue are like right up here. Like this. This is the One Piece angle. Ready? It's funny because it's fucking accurate. It's like, hey Luffy, are we gonna go fight Arlong? Yeah, I think so. It's a little too close for you guys, I know. Well, you should blame the One Piece director for that. Cause, hey, my name's Luffy. I'm gonna be king of the pirates. Like that? Come on, man. It's too much. It's too much. Stop doing that. It's not, it like the, okay, like, it makes the camera feel present in the scene. When I see a close-up shot where it's like a handheld shot, like it's clearly handheld, it's held right up to the person's face, like right here. Like if I were to, like the camera's here, if the actor turns their head, they'll smack into the fucking lens. That's how close it is. And it's like right there. And all I'm picturing when Kobe, for example, Kobe and Luffy on the boat, episode 1, every shot of this dialogue is like super uptight on their face. If Kobe turned his head, he'd hit the camera. All I can picture when I see that angle, I'm just thinking to myself, that actor for Kobe is using every fucking fiber in his body to not turn his head right now and hit the camera. Like he is trying to ignore the camera as hard as possible. And I just picture the guy in the boat or whatever sitting there like this because the camera is just so obnoxiously present in the scene. There's a fishbowl lens I've noticed they keep using. And I'm a fisheye lens. I'm actually gonna pull up an example of why this is terrible. I know it sounds like I'm being harsh, but I need to be. I'm dramatic, okay? Now I'll show why exactly this fisheye lens is terrible, and I'll explain it while I'm looking for this part.
Zoro?
Sorry, I have to mute this shit. The fisheye lens, they use it a lot in Syrup Village. They use it throughout the show. But they keep doing this thing where they put the fisheye lens and they do this like Wes Anderson style. I mean, they do a bunch of these Wes Anderson style center frame shots with like this artistic, like symmetrical room center frame shot. And they have a lot of these like centered characters front and center looking into the camera with a fisheye lens. And it makes the front look blown out and the sides look really blurred and stretched. I've seen someone on Twitter mention to me that it might be to give the effect of looking through a ship's window. Well, unfortunately, if you've ever looked through a ship's window, you can get nauseous pretty quickly doing that. So I don't think that's a great, if that is what they intended, not a great stylistic choice to make repeatedly happen in the show. The fisheye lens creates some of these really weird effects on screen because the DP decided on multiple occasions, and I'm going to pull up one, to do a fisheye lens shot, but to place the character of focus not center in the fisheye lens. So you have certain shots where you have a character off center, like let's say off to the left, but the fisheye lens effect is still on. So what happens when you do that? I'll show you what happens. You get this. Okay, let me pull up so you can see more clearly. Now take a look at Usopp. You notice anything weird about Usopp? Have you noticed that Usopp in this shot happens to look like a charger from Left 4 Dead? Have you noticed how because of the fisheye lens that they're using here, whatever this effect is, that the outsides are stretched out and pushed out, and the insides in focus. So what happens to Usopp's arm? His right arm looks absolutely massive, and his left arm looks really tiny. A combination of perspective, but also the lens, because the lens is stretching out what's on the edge of the screen, and the subject in this case is Usopp. Usopp is talking, so your eyes, Usopp's talking, you're focused on Usopp. The dude has a massive arm because of the lens. It like looks so bizarre, and it's like, it's things like that like make me really confused, because I'm like, what? Like, no one quality controlled that. You know, like that's the only thing, like that sort of thing. There's a bunch of that in the show. I really think that if they want, you know, the one thing I have to say that they have to change for season 2 is the cinematography. And I think that's going to happen with an increased budget, increased support. They're going to be able to do these bigger shots, these more significant shots. The real big reason I don't like these close-ups, and I talked about this on Twitter too, is One Piece is a world that is supposed to feel very big, open, and free. It's a world full of adventure, really wide, open ocean, huge world. I think it hurts the atmosphere and the setting if every time characters are interacting, you have these claustrophobic, tight camera angles. Okay? When you have a horror movie, you do these claustrophobic angles because you want to give the feeling of tension, like the person is being closed in on. That's why you do these, because you can't see what's out of frame, so anything could be there. It makes you feel tense. In a dramatic scene, in an action movie or something, like, for example, like a cowboy film, like a Sergio Leone movie, you have two people in a standoff, ready to draw their guns, and then the camera focuses in on their face and then the eyes, and it gets really tight and up close. Why do they do this? It's to build tension. It's to, the feeling is supposed to be claustrophobic in those examples because you want to make the viewer feel the tension of the scene. The problem is, in the One Piece live action, these close-ups are not used for that purpose. So much of the dialogue feels extremely up close and personal and really tight that it makes the world, the setting that they're supposed to be in, feel smaller. It feels like they're constantly in a room or in a hallway, the way that they're being shot when they're talking. So, in my opinion, there's like, obviously there has to be a compromise because you can't, they don't have the means or the budget or the support to confidently do these wide, like, locale shots, like these big shots of like the location. I would have loved if we got a little bit more of that, right? Because the big thing about One Piece is the beauty of the scenery, the locations, the environments, the settings. And I think the show would benefit greatly from showing off that scale to its full potential. And the way you show off that scale is, instead of doing all these really close-up shots, you do more wide open shots. You show the environment more. You show, they should have had a scene where they were walking around Kaya's mansion, because that's a big set piece. They don't have to make an advanced special effects set to do Kaya's mansion. They should have had a scene where they maybe walked around the mansion during the daytime outside and talked to Kaya in the garden or something. And you get a big wide shot of the mansion and the island to show like the world, you know? I think that it would benefit from that more. And these like close-up shots are not doing it for me. Luffy and Kobe talking in the middle of the ocean, instead of showing the entire ocean, a lot of the scene is Luffy and Kobe, like the camera's like right up here, so I don't even get to see the big ocean they're sailing on. It makes the world feel small. And you know, I think if they're gonna go to the Grand Line next season, they have to do what I'm saying. They have to do these wider shots. They have to do these landscape shots. They have to. Because you have to give the scope of how intimidating and huge and crazy and majestic and beautiful the world of One Piece is and the Grand Line is. When they get into the Grand Line, this place that's being hyped up all season as this like treacherous place, this incredible place full of adventure and riches, you have to show that. You have to showcase that more. One example I really liked from the show of doing what I'm talking about is in the Sanji Zeph flashback. They actually did a wide shot of the giant rock plateau that Sanji and Zeph were trapped on. They showed the whole plateau, the whole island. Big shot of the ocean, massive plateau towering into the sky, Sanji and Zeph on top. They showed the big wide shot. You know, I think that was great. Like, they need to do more of that. That would be, you know, we didn't really get to see any of the islands from a distance. We didn't get to see any locations from a distance. I feel like it would help to do that because it creates scale in our minds, right? You see the Baratier from a distance and then they approach it. Might be harder to do. They had the Baratier show up in the mist. We couldn't actually see the Baratier from far away, really. It's like covered by fog. But like, you know, if they did more things like that where they showed the whole location, or they did more, they pulled the camera back more, I think it would make the world feel bigger. It would really feel like the world of One Piece as it is in the manga. Yeah, I think the show needs a lot more landscape shots, a lot more big shots like that really showcase the environment in the world. So much of it is not like that though. One other example, here's another thing I hope gets improved next season, are the special effects in some areas. There's one that really stuck out to me. Speaking of the Sanji and Zeph thing, they do a really far out shot on top of the plateau, and baby Sanji is photoshopped in, and it's like really obvious, and it did not look good. It sucked out some of the dramatic tension of the scene when I saw Sanji photoshopped in. Here we go. Let me pull this up. This, when this happened, I was the whole Zeph flashback is great. It's amazing, perfectly done. But this, I have a little bit of an issue with. They could have put a little bit more time in the oven for this specific shot. I'm sorry. If you end such a sad emotional flashback, this shit looks like it's like made on a TikTok. Like he was photoshopped in, bro. Does anyone else see that? Is it just me? He's like, he's the height of, he looks like the perspective is all wrong. He's the height of Zeph sitting down as like a 8-year-old standing up. Like that does not look good in my opinion. That's rough. Like that. And the fact that it hits at the very end of such an emotional gut punch scene, like, oof. Does not look good, man. So for me, my big hope is that that's just a symptom of it being season 1. You know, if it's season 1, I can look past the little issues, the technical issues, the special effect issues, because the reality is, they didn't know if this was going to go well. They don't know if the show is going to be received well, right? So you make a season 1, you put a big budget into it, but you also have to like hold yourself back a little bit. You don't want to go overboard, or you don't want to, you know, they don't have time to make everything perfect, because in their mind, it's like, well, what if season 1 flops? Like, will it be worth all the extra time and money? It might be better to put season 1 out as a feeler, despite its mistakes and issues. Put season 1 out there, and then if it does really well, gangbusters, season 2, then we up everything. The quality will go up on the scenery, the camera, special effects. So I think the way they're doing it is season 1 is kind of like a test. They're testing the waters, no pun intended, testing the waters to see if we're really ready for the grand line here. And if people are supporting the show, it seems everyone loves the show, it's been received well, I think we're getting a season 2. I really hope we do. And if we don't, Netflix, I'm boycotting. I mean, I'm gonna be a resident Netflix hater forever. I already am, but it's gonna be severe if they cancel this. If we get a season 2, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a straight upgrade in every aspect. Yeah, they clearly care. They care, and I'm not trying to... Obviously, I spent a lot of time talking about the positives. I'm spending some time now talking about the negatives, but it's all out of love. Like I said before, I really do love the live action. If I had to rate it, I would give it an 8 out of 10. And that's a high rating for me, because I'm one of those guys who doesn't rate things like people normally rate them. I consider 5 and 6 to be like the average of something. And 7, 8, 9, and 10... like, they have to actually be exceptional in some kind of way. So for me, an 8's a pretty significant rating. I would give it an 8, you know? But yeah, that's funny, Yokai. Hidden. Kid Sanji's looking like he's floating is actually foreshadowing Skywalk. Gota does it again. I saw someone also talking about Usopp with the big arm. Being, you know, he got really strong. He doesn't need a time skip or anything. That's funny too. I love that shit. But you know, realistically, we gotta hold him accountable for some of these visual issues.